This just in, news that impacts real people. The European Union fully rolled out its new digital border control system on April 10th, aiming to modernize travel. But the first days have been far from smooth. The Entry-Exit System, or EES, replaces traditional passport stamping with a biometric process for non-EU visitors traveling to the Schengen area. This area includes 25 of the 27 EU member states, as well as Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. The system digitally tracks when you enter and leave for short stays of up to 90 days in any 180-day window. Instead of a quick passport check, travelers now use self-service kiosks or staffed checkpoints to scan their passport, provide fingerprints, and have their photo taken. The data is stored, meaning future trips should require only quick verification. In theory, this should streamline border crossings, but early reports suggest the opposite. Since launch, several major airports have seen delays stretching up to 4 hours, with some passengers even missing flights. In one case, a Milan departure reportedly left more than 100 travelers behind due to long queues. Many people also say they've had to repeat the biometric process, including fingerprints, multiple times. The disruptions appear to stem from technical glitches, limited staffing, and uneven infrastructure. Also, not all airports have compatible automated gates. A supporting mobile app, the European Travel Information and Authorization System that is meant to let travelers pre-submit their details, is set to launch in late 2026.
Avoid these 5 EES mistakes when travelling to Europe this summer. Number 1, not using the right passport. So many people have dual citizenship, meaning that they've got both an EU and a UK passport. If you are visiting a country within the Schengen zone, travel on your EU passport and make sure that's what you use when you enter and exit. This will mean that you avoid the EES system altogether, meaning that you will minimise delays when travelling through the airport. Number 2, not planning your arrival transfer properly. Now, we all know the EES process is completed when we arrive at the airport, and if it's your first time, you will need to complete the full registration, and for some people, this is causing significant delays. Now, a lot of the time, when you are planning your transfer to take you onwards to your hotel or your apartment, people tend to book it 45 minutes after they've landed. This is generally enough time, but not the case at the moment, so make sure you take this into account. It may be that you need to book it 2 hours from when you've actually landed, and my top tip, when you have landed, contact the transfer company straight away to give them an update. Number 3, not allowing enough time for your connection. So many people presume that when they are travelling, the EES will be completed when they arrive at their final destination. This is not necessarily the case. If you have a connection via a country in the Schengen area and you are going to pass through border control, then you will complete the EES registration here. And if you have left a very short window between flights, then you run the risk of missing your final flight. So make sure if you are planning flights with connections in the Schengen area that you leave a minimum of 90 minutes between each flight. Number 4, thinking that you will skip the EES process because you have a visa. This is not the case. There are a long list of people who are exempt from EES. The main ones are those people travelling with an EU passport or those that have a residency permit. A visa is not one, so you will still need to do this process when you arrive in the Schengen zone. Number 5, not booking special assistance at the airport. If you know that you or a family member is going to struggle with any part of this process, whether it's the registering of your biometrics or even just being in a very busy, loud airport and having to stand in a queue for potentially an hour or two, then you need to book this assistance, because the aim is that someone will support you with this process and hopefully move you through a lot quicker.
Now, more stories affecting real people. It's Friday, April 24th, 2026, and here are today's stories. After more than 60 years of pressure, a new oil blockade tightens the squeeze on Cuba, raising a bigger question. Is this really about freedom or a long-running power play where everyday people pay the price? Feeling tired, foggy, or constantly sick? The culprit could be hiding in your walls. Simple, natural ways to tackle mold before it quietly spreads and takes over your home. Solar farms are spreading fast across Australia as coal fades out. But for many rural communities, the shift to clean energy has been uneven, disruptive, and far from simple. From mud, glass, and reclaimed materials, a Cobb temple is rising in Oregon, part sanctuary, part art, and a glimpse into a slower, more intentional way of living. Scroll for 5 minutes and you'll see it. Kids with full skincare routines. Now it's sparking global concern, with experts warning about pressure, marketing, and products meant for adults. Handmade teddy bears stitched in the United States are bringing comfort to children in Africa. Small gifts carrying a powerful message of care, connection, and compassion. For more than 60 years, Cuba has endured a relentless U.S. embargo, withstanding wave after wave of economic restrictions and political pressures. Then came February 2026, and with it, a new oil blockade, because apparently decades of squeezing weren't enough to get the desired results. One has to wonder, is this really about democracy and freedom, or just an age-old chess game where ordinary lives are pawns? For a long time, Cuba kept the lights on by leaning on outside partners, the Soviet Union back in the day, and later Venezuela, for discounted oil. That lifeline got cut in January 2026 when the U.S. moved to sever Venezuela's oil shipments to Cuba. A full oil blockade followed shortly after, along with threatened tariffs against any country willing to sell fuel to the island. Many observers called it the tightest squeeze on Cuba since the early 1960s. Washington has framed all of this, the blockade, the tariff threats, the whole package, as a matter of national security. The justifications point to Cuba's communist government, its relationships with Russia, China, and Iran, and alleged ties to groups the U.S. considers terrorist organizations, something Cuba flatly rejects. Skeptics, though, see a simpler explanation. Keeping Cuba isolated, limiting who it can align with, and maintaining leverage over a government that has long refused to play by Washington's rules. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the island imports somewhere between 60 and 70% of its fuel. Cut that off, and the effects ripple fast, and they did. Rolling blackouts stretched on for hours at a time. Hospitals struggled to function. Public transportation ground down, and garbage piled up. Inflation climbed, and shelves that were already thin got thinner, with food and medicine becoming harder and harder to come by.
Mira, con esta situación hay mucho estrés. Hay mucho estrés y hay mucha molestia en nosotros los pobladores, porque los que estamos sufriendo al final toda esta situación somos nosotros. No es la gente del gobierno, la gente del gobierno están súper bien como siempre, ¿no? El que está en la cúpula gubernamental, ese vive bien donde quiera. Somos nosotros, la gente del pueblo, que somos los que estamos pasando 1001 necesidades. Aquí falta la corriente, donde yo vivo, en la Loma Chapla, ahí en Santo Suárez, estuvimos sin corriente 30 horas, sin corriente, ya te puedes imaginar. Y sin agua, porque como no hay corriente no se puede poner los motores para dar el agua, no se puede bombear el agua. Entonces, eso lo estamos sufriendo nosotros.
Porque el pueblo es el que sufre porque no tiene combustible, no tiene medicamentos, no tiene comida, ¿te entiendes? Entonces Trump lo que está haciendo es bloquearnos nosotros el pueblo. Si verdaderamente Trump quisiera ayudarnos a nosotros, entonces Trump nos quitaría el bloqueo para que al pueblo le llegue el combustible, porque no tenemos corriente prácticamente. Y todo se le echa la culpa al gobierno. Pero si entonces no dejan pasar el petróleo, ¿cómo el pueblo se va a abastecer de la corriente?
The director of Cuba's Center for Neurosciences says fuel shortages are making it nearly impossible to distribute medicine across the country. People, growing desperate, started hoarding whatever they could find. A black market for basic medications has emerged, with some looking to profit off the scarcity. Even drugs being produced in the country can't reliably make it from warehouses to other provinces, though medical facilities are supposed to be the first in line when power is rationed. In practice, The limited supply tends to flow toward large hospitals, leaving smaller clinics in the dark.
Si nosotros queremos pensar el verdadero valor inhumano, criminal del bloqueo, pregúntele a una madre que está embarazada y que no tiene acceso a una prueba prenatal. Pregúntele a una madre que ha tenido un niño bajo peso y no tiene una incubadora o no tiene un medicamento que necesita para que sobreviva. Pregúntele a un paciente que sufre de cáncer y le duele y no tiene un analgésico para aliviar ese dolor.
Meanwhile, protests calling on the U.S. to lift the embargo spread across Europe on April 11th, with demonstrations in Spain, Germany, Italy, and France, and a gathering outside the American embassy in Brussels. Toward the end of March, a Russia-flagged tanker delivered roughly 700,000 barrels of crude oil to Cuba, a real shipment, but one that, by most estimates, would only stretch about 1 to 2 weeks based on the island's typical consumption. The Cuban government's response has been a mix of rationing, scheduled blackouts, and a push toward renewable energy, particularly solar. The gap between how this looks on paper in some policy memo and how it actually feels on the ground for millions of people is enormous. Blackouts, empty shelves, and daily uncertainty aren't talking points. They're just life. And as tends to be with these kinds of standoffs, it's ordinary people who end up carrying the weight of decisions made far above their heads.
Did you know that increased allergies, fatigue, and illness could be signs of mold in your home? UNN Field Messenger Helen shows us simple, natural ways to help keep our homes free from mold.
Hello beautiful beings, this is Field Messenger Helen reporting with Nature for United Network News, and we are going to look at mould. Now if you have someone come out and test with their equipment that detects mould, you'll find there's heaps of mould in the garden, and that's just normal. The issue is when you've got a way the water can get into the house. There were some telltale signs of black speckled mould on the plaster, and when we took it off they had to keep stripping it higher and higher to discover the water leak is from a valley in the roof where it meets. There's a gutter, bit of gutter sticking out, all the branches collect, the water builds up behind that and it's leaking in there. From my research, I found this collection of oils, thyme, sage, oregano, clove, tea tree and rosemary, to be a powerful collection that kill all kinds of moulds because there are different types. It kills the spores and the aflatoxins. So once all those different oils and the straight white vinegar is in the diffusers, I am closing off the space that has the mould and fogging. I've fogged a lot repeatedly, and I also use the same mixture in a spray bottle, and I physically spray the timbers. The key thing is make sure there's no water sources. So I will never be complacent with emptying the gutters or checking the roof, and just keep an eye. If there's any moisture coming from your tap fittings under the sink, sort it out immediately because you don't want bigger issues. Mold is a big impact on our health. So may you be healthy and mold free. Bye.
Australia's energy landscape is shifting fast. Coal is on its way out, and solar is taking over, particularly across regional areas where large-scale farms are being rolled out at pace to hit the country's 2030 targets. Cheaper technology and federal backing have sped up the rollout. But for plenty of people living in those regions, the transition has been anything but smooth. Land is where the friction really starts. Families who've worked the same land for generations are watching it get locked into energy leases. And the concern isn't just sentimental. there are real questions about what steady agricultural land loss means for food production further down the track, especially in areas with genuinely productive soil. That tension feeds into a much older grievance: regional communities carrying the weight of large infrastructure while the rewards flow elsewhere. Power bills don't necessarily drop because a solar farm went up down the road. Permanent local jobs don't always materialize. And when a landowner sits across the table from a well-resourced developer, the negotiation is rarely balanced. A good example is the Meadow Creek Solar Farm in Victoria, where locals feel the government pushed the project through without genuinely listening to their concerns, which has really damaged their trust.
I think you're seeing, as the urgency becomes more acute to roll out these renewable energy projects to replace coal, all the protections and laws that were there to give people a fair say are being stripped away. Victoria was never particularly generous in the way it considered complaints. The last vestige of having a say was stripped away, I think, last year. Now there's complete control from the minister to roll these things out. And we're seeing this at a federal level as well, with changes to the EPBC. A large part of it is to give the minister the power to override any objections to the deployment of transmission lines, wind and solar projects and other things.
There's also the question of what happens when things go wrong. The abandoned Gemalong site near Forbes in New South Wales, linked to a renewable energy company's financial troubles in late 2025, is a clear reminder that not every project succeeds. What's left behind is partially dismantled infrastructure, frustrated locals raising concerns about fire risk, and no clear answer on who's responsible for cleaning it up. That uncertainty matters. If a company folds, the cleanup bill could fall to the landholder, particularly where financial guarantees weren't locked in from the start. Public money that went into subsidizing the project doesn't come back either.
Mallee has many projects, and in fact across Victoria we have 21 of the largest foreign-owned wind and solar developments who've pulled in almost $5 billion in revenue and consumer subsidies. Who's paying those subsidies? Us. Yeah. And then we've got, today we find out that there's one of those foreign-owned companies, Iberdrola, which is developing the VNI West in my patch and owns other renewable developments. And they brought in over $600 million in 2023-24 and apparently paid no tax. Yeah. Where's the transparency? And then we've got Energy Connect, who have gone over budget, shock horror, $1.1 billion over, and they've now applied for us to pay. Where does this stop?
These situations have sharpened the broader argument about whether productive farming country should be repurposed for energy generation at all. The push to establish renewable energy zones has also created fault lines within communities. Those receiving lease payments have a very different outlook to neighbors who get none of the income but all of the disruption. Add in anxiety about property values and the possibility of contamination risks, and the unease isn't hard to understand, even if the evidence, including from the CSIRO, the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, suggests solar farms don't significantly reduce property values or cause significant environmental damage. Solar farms are a big part of Australia's move to clean energy, but they're not without challenges. The rollout needs to be handled better than it has been in places. Land use, genuine community input, financial accountability, and long-term responsibility for sites aren't secondary concerns. They're the stuff that determines whether regional Australians see this transition as something done with them or something done to them.
Amino acids play a vital role in maintaining your overall health and well-being. Not enough amino acids and protein daily can result in brain fog, hormone imbalances, digestive issues, cognitive function, lack of energy, lower immunity, decreased muscle strength, and much more. That's why we created our amino acid complex, packed with 21 free-form, easily digestible aminos that skip the breakdown and go straight to work energizing your mind and body. Used by athletes, vegans, and high performers. New Earth's amino acid complex helps your mind and body recover, rebuild, and renew daily. Subscribe now and optimize your life.
Hi everyone, this is Leanne.
And I'm Jerry.
Coming to you from Tamworth, New South Wales.
Hi there, this is Rick from Arizona.
My name is Uchechukwu Owenebam from Igbo tribe, Nigeria.
Hi, this is Scott from Utah.
I'm Annette from Agassiz, British Columbia.
Hi, I'm Marcus Surzet from Manipur State, India.
Real people reporting real stories from all around the world. That's what United Network News is all about.
Can you clap? We had a huge flood, which some call the flood of the century.
No fake news here. Our field messengers share personal experiences of what's really happening in their community.
We got some nice fish right here.
At UNN, you are the news.
My family and I had a very good time.
Take the next step. Become a UNN field messenger and share the real news with the world.
In the northwest province of South Africa, I am United Network News.
I am United Network News.
I am United Network News.
I am United Network News, and if it's going to be, it's up to me.
It's going to be, it's up to me. If it is going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to me.
If it's going to be, it's up to us. Field Messages, United Network News. See you next time.
UNN Field Messenger Kim shares her journey of building a beautiful cob temple using reclaimed materials, sacred geometry, and a lot of love. With a wagon wheel roof, earthen floors, and glass accents, it's a magical space for meditation and connection with nature.
Hi there, Kim here in Oregon, the United Network News. Today I wanted to show you my cob temple. This cob temple has been in work in progress the last 2 years. It's taken me 2 years to get it this far. But I really wanted to show you inside and outside and how I built this temple from start to finish. The first job was to mark out the space. I used sacred geometry. I made 14 post holes for the main structure. There was a lot of sourcing and fixing of reclaimed pallets, and Daisy was always there to help. Next was building the frame and joining the pallets to the posts. Once the first level was complete, I filled each pallet with insulation material. I used old carpet underlay and straw. Then I started getting the reclaimed windows in place. I put a temporary center post in the middle for the roof beams. Daisy was always ready to give me a hand. Here's the beautiful roof structure. It looks like a wagon wheel. Once the beams were in place, it was time to cut the roof panels and drill each one in place. And next was the shingles, and boy was that a challenge. Here I am making a cob mix of sand, clay and straw. I got all the clay from the garden. This was so much fun. Here I am slapping that cob onto the walls, poking and pushing it in, smoothing it out as best you can. Then you can apply a trowel to it to get a nice smooth finish. I added glass bottles and glass box to all the walls and around the frames of the windows to make it look more beautiful. Then it was time for the earthen floors. And here's my husband Dave mixing loads of cob for the earthen floors. And here is the beautiful finished earthen floor. Here I've painted the walls with the lovely clay paint I made myself, and the ceiling, and I put a little painted ceiling rose in the center at the top. The floors were painted and finished in many layers of linseed oil to seal the earthen floors. It's a beautiful space to be in. I meditate here. I ground my body here on cold mornings. Actually, I just come in here to lay on the floor because it feels so nice. This is the little kitchen area. There's a back door. And this is just such a magical space. Soon I hope to have a meditation circle starting with some friends that really love to do that too. I know that this was a co-creation with Mother Gaia and Source. It just felt that way to me. I just love this space and I'm really glad that I did it. I hope it's inspired you too to give it a go. Well, thank you for watching and I hope you've enjoyed this amazing journey. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Scroll through TikTok for about 5 minutes and you'll see it. A 10-year-old with a multi-step skincare routine. Serums, toners, eye creams, anti-aging products lined up on a vanity that looks more like a Sephora display than a child's bedroom. It's a growing global concern, and now regulators are starting to take notice. Regulators in Europe have already begun digging into how major beauty brands like Sephora and Benefit Cosmetics may be using social media to reach younger audiences. The scrutiny is centered on campaigns that feature young influencers and promote products designed for adult skin, often without clearly communicating what's appropriate for kids. It raises a bigger question. Where's the line between marketing and manipulation when the audience is this young?
Have you been hearing all about the Sephora Kids trend? It's been all over social media, and I've been seeing more and more Gen Alpha kids using skincare products that they see online from other influencers. But is this safe? Do children even need a skincare routine? As a parent, I know that these types of trends can bring up a lot of questions, so it's important to stay informed about them. Sephora Kids refers to the girls of Gen Alpha, so as young as 8 years old and up, who go to the beauty store for viral skincare products they see thanks to many different influencers. My take is that many of these kids are viewing skincare products as like collector items or something fun to showcase like on their shelves at home, thinking of it as like an equivalent to like the millennials' Pokemon card collection or Beanie Babies or Furbies or Pogs. Remember Pogs? But the biggest concern with this is that a lot of these products are primarily formulated for adults. So these young children are using certain products without understanding their purpose or their benefits.
This ties into a growing phenomenon called cosmetic gorexia, an unhealthy obsession with achieving perfect skin, and it's showing up in younger and younger age groups. Kids as young as 8 to 12 are now following multi-step routines, asking for high-end products, and even using ingredients like retinol that are meant for adults. What used to be simple hygiene is turning into a constant pursuit of flawlessness, where normal skin starts to feel like something that needs fixing. A big driver is the rise of get ready with me social media videos, which make elaborate routines look calm, aesthetic, and completely normal. Watch a few, and suddenly a shelf full of products feels expected. Social media algorithms then double down, feeding kids more of the same content and creating a loop that's hard to break. When the influencers are also young, it doesn't even register as marketing. It feels like advice from a friend, which makes it all the more convincing.
I think Sephora is now obsessed with tweens the same way tweens are obsessed with them. In the last month, they've launched 2 new tween brands in store. And the data is why Sephora is doubling down on tweens. Customers 9 through 12 have doubled, and 6 to 12-year-olds are spending 27% more on skincare. But the two brands that Sephora chose are even smarter. The first one is Sincerely Yours, started by this huge tween influencer, Salish Matter. And look how many people showed up for the launch at Sephora. It's been a massive hit with her fans and all the tween influencers. The next one is Everyday, and this brand has been out since 2018. We can see that Sephora is being very strategic and is choosing brands that they know will be a home run. Now, the next brand that hasn't launched in Sephora, but I think will be the next one, is Yesterday. It's founded by this 13-year-old and Rod Robinson, aka the formulator of Rhode. Now, I think everyone's gonna have their opinions on Sephora's strategy, but they're just following the money.
If regulators determine that companies like Sephora are actively targeting these minors, it could trigger a wave of tighter rules around how beauty brands market online. That might include fines, stricter advertising guidelines, clearer age labeling on products, and limits on using young influencers to promote adult skincare. In some cases, companies could be required to change or pull certain campaigns altogether. More broadly, it would send a message to the entire industry. Marketing to kids, especially in ways that blur the line between content and advertising, is no longer a gray area, and there are real consequences for crossing it. So, what can parents do without turning it into a daily standoff? Keep it simple. Most kids only need a gentle cleanser, moisturizer, and maybe some sunscreen, nothing more. It also helps to avoid harsh active ingredients like retinol and shift the focus away from perfection. The goal isn't flawless skin, it's healthy skin. Just as important, talk openly about what they're seeing online and help them question it. Asking simple questions like, do you think they're being paid to show you that product? Can go a long way in helping kids think more critically about content.
Across the USA, volunteers knit and crochet bears for children in Africa affected by HIV and AIDS, creating heartfelt symbols of love and care. UNN Field Messenger Ruth takes us through the process, showing how each bear carries comfort, hope, and connection.
Hello, this is Ruth, Field Messenger for UNN. These are some cuddly bears that I have knitted for the non-profit Mother Bear Project. The bears are donated to children in Africa. People knit or crochet the bears as a gift of unconditional love to the children, showing them that someone cares. The Mother Bear organization has sent at least 183,000 bears to Africa in 26 countries in the 18 years. I have been knitting mother bears for 10 years. In my free time, as it is relaxing, creative, and worthwhile. First, I knit the whole bear as a long piece. Then I fold it and sew the head. Then I knit the arms. The body is sewn together, leaving an opening for stuffing. When all the stuffing is inside, I sew around the neck and make a small scarf to cover the sewing. Then on the head, I sew ears, eyes, nose, and mouth to make a face. Every bear gets a label with the name of the donor. The finished bears have a heart sewn on before they are mailed to African nations. There are 4 different patterns to knit or crochet. The pattern costs $5 from motherbearproject.org. The smiles and joy on the children's faces when they receive a bear that completely belongs to them are heartwarming. This is Ruth signing off as Field Messenger.
UNN is changing the face of news. Join us for our weekly Field Messenger meetings and learn how you can make a difference. Visit unitednetwork.earth for more information. Thanks for watching.